Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. Hope you are all well and safe. I've been using my iPad a lot recently, mainly because of the lockdown, and I've been sort of sitting with Special K and painting, and I've come to the conclusion that the Artrage app on the iPad is quite good.
So this painting is uncannily small for me. It's 2000 pixels by 1000 pixels, 72 dots per inch, much smaller than what I normally paint. And I'm just going to use Photo Zoom Classic 7 to enlarge it if I want to make prints. But that wasn't the intention when I started this painting. I'm using my iPad much more during the lockdown, because I'm sort of sitting with Special K and we're looking for things to do, and I don't want to sort of be isolated from her all the time. I don't think that's fair. So we spend time together, and she does drawing and I use my iPad. So I'm using Artrage on the iPad today for this one. And as I say, it's much smaller image. I've sort of given up on trying to do big size paintings on the iPad for Artrage. It doesn't work. The brushes become too small and you can't get those nice sort of brush strokes, and you don't see the detail in the brushes. So this one is a bit of an experiment where I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do a small painting and have really huge brushes so I can get that nice thick oil paint looking effect. Although, having said that, I didn't actually use the thick oil brush on this one at all. I just used the regular standard flat oil paint brush throughout the whole of the painting. I didn't use any other brush whatsoever. And as you can see, I've got a photograph. This is quite an old photo taken a couple of years ago when we were allowed to go out to parks and things, and I was at a place called Elveston Castle where they've got a nice big lake and there's a couple of geese on there, and that's what I'm using for the reference for this. Not a very long painting at all. Took me less than 30 minutes, I believe, to do the whole thing. So influenced massively by my 15-minute painting challenge, obviously, as you can see, because I'm sort of going in there. It looks absolutely random where I'm sort of putting them brush strokes. But I have to say that I was paying real close attention to where those brush strokes actually go. And you can see I've zoomed in to have a look at the leaves. Doing them a slightly different colour. I'm going with this sort of purple lime green colour scheme for this one, which I think looks came out really well. I'm really pleased with the actual colour scheme. And then a touch of sort of a greyed off teal colour in there as well, just to add a little bit of variety. So I'm painting the shadows in this one now, just sort of picking out those shadows underneath the leaves to try and give it a little bit of form. But again, I'm not too worried. I'm just sort of initially cracking on lots of colour. Also a very strange format for me, this sort of elongated shape. I think that's what drew me to doing this particular photo as a source material. I thought, oh, that's unusual. I don't very often paint in that format, so I'll give that one a go. It is nice to sort of use the iPad more, because I've been spending a lot of time working in my studio, so consequently don't use the iPad so much. The only downside of painting like this, of course, is I don't get to record the thumbnails in. I don't record the audio as I'm painting, because obviously Special K's there and we're chatting and we've got music playing. So it's a really chilled out experience. But it also shows that there are situations when an iPad or a tablet comes into its own and way better for the situation than any other tool like the Cintiq, where you are stuck to a desk. I can move around the house freely with the iPad and sit in a nice comfy sofa with a cup of tea, chilling out and painting, which is really nice. So anyway, back to the painting. As you can see, I'm paying a lot of attention to those random looking strokes. They're not just going in willy-nilly. I am really concentrating about everyone, but still doing it in a real quick fashion. And you know what I really like? If you look at the tree trunks, look how unprecise they are. I like that real sort of couldn't care less abandon with the brush strokes, where they just sort of crashed in really quick. And I wish I could paint like that when I'm using real oils. I've noticed that when I'm painting with real oils, I'm still quite stifled and haven't got the freedom that I've got with digital painting. And that's something I need to work on, I think, because I love the freshness of these, which it's not really... In the odd oil painting I do, it's there, but not to the extent that I've got it going in these digital paintings. So there I'm starting to bring in that greyed off blue teal colour. You can see on the colour picker where the little dot is, but it's much grey. I don't want a strong colour that's going to shout out and dominate against the purples and the lime greens. The lime green is a sort of dominant colour that I want to use in this painting. So those blues I'm using are really greyed off, so you are aware that they're there, but they're not in your face and they're not shouting out in competition against the lime green. It's more just a complement against the accent colours. I'm also, you'll notice in this painting that it is unusual in a lot of ways because of the size of the canvas and the resolution of the canvas, and also the fact that I've sort of pretty much painted the top half of the canvas and not even got any paint on the bottom at all. I don't normally work like that. I usually like to get the old canvas covered, but in this case I didn't. I'm working in a very different way. See how I'm using horizontal brush strokes to cut through the vertical strokes that I put in for the tree, which give it that sort of watery look, the ripple in the water, breaking up the reflection of those trees. So I'm going to sort of continue like that. I'm just going to speed the thing along a little bit because it's sort of similar sort of brush strokes till we get to the geese. And then when I start painting the geese, I'll come back in. The reason I wanted to show you the geese was because I didn't create a new layer. Normally if I paint a subject within a painting, like a person or a geese or something like that, I create a new layer. But this time I didn't want to do that because I wanted the paints to mix on the layer, on the original layer. So you can see I start painting the goose in. I've just made the brush a bit smaller, and I'm using the background to create the patterns in the wings, if you see what I'm saying. I don't actually paint them in. I use the background that's already there for the dark colours. And then I'm picking a sort of a bluey colour for the neck. I'm not so sure if that's exactly how I want it. And also you'll see that the neck, you can hardly see it against that background. So I need to sort that out, because I want you to clearly see that there's a goose there, and you just can't see its neck. You see its body okay, but I need to lighten up the background so you can see the whole of the goose. And two things that I can say there is that the goose is way too big, and it's too far over to the left of the canvas. So I undo the whole thing and then repaint it a little bit further along and to a more accurate size. And I know I could have done the cut and move. I don't know actually if you can on the iPad version of Artrage. I don't know if you can cut and move things or not. It's been a long while since I've done any of that. But when I started painting it and not putting it on a different layer, I knew I was going to have to be prepared to do it the conventional way. Well, I mean, it's not that conventional that you can actually undo your painting and not have to sort of paint over it, but repaint the whole thing again from scratch. And initially, I felt that the second attempt wasn't quite as natural looking as the first one. But looking at it now, I quite like it. I like the detail I've got in those wings. But I've still got the same problem with the neck, that I need to think about the background behind the neck of that goose quite a lot. And my solution is going to be to just use that green and sort of paint around it lighter. And I think this might be the point where I start to do that, just so you can actually see. But I've got to keep it natural looking and not have this sort of light clump of colour behind the head. It's got to blend in with the rest of the painting. Taking my time with this. I've really slowed down in the painting stakes. Oh dear. Oh, it's not looking quite so good. Took me a while to get that beat right. I found it easier to sort of, just because I'm using that square brush, make it easy for myself, hey? I found it easy to just put a blob of colour on and then paint around it to sort of chisel away. There we are. That's my goose. And you can see I've got a little bit of lighter colour behind the head, so you can see that now. Just getting in some shadows, and then obviously I need to anchor the bird into the water, get the reflection in as well. There we go. I didn't put those planks in for some reason. I think I was actually, where I was sitting, I'd got the sun on the screen of the iPad quite a lot, and I was struggling to actually see the detail in the photo. I can see it a lot better now, actually, on looking at it on my PC than I could when I was painting it. Not that I'm making any excuses, because sometimes not being able to see detail, especially in the style that I paint in, is a good thing. There we go. So we've got these nice dark colours against the body, so that's popping, and now I'm lightening up around the neck, so you can see the goose's head. So I've got this juxtaposition of dark against light and light against dark, but I've got to make it look as though it belongs, as though that light colour belongs in the bushes and not just something that I put on, so you can see the neck of the goose. So I get the light colour in first, and I think I'm looking at that now, it appears to me that the brush strokes are a little bit on the small side. And as you zoom out, you can see that it needs something a little bit more. So I'm pushing the shadow colour into it, which definitely helps. This painting did quite well, you know, on Digital Easel, the Facebook group where people that like to paint digitally but in a traditional style can post their paintings. I set it up a while ago. If you've not checked it out, go along and have a look, and please join and post your paintings. We'd love to see them there. But this particular painting, I posted it the same day I posted a painting, the last one I did of Killian, where he was painting a rainbow, and this got more likes than Killian. I was absolutely amazed. I thought Killian would knock it out of the water because of the detail in the painting and the subject matter that it was all about. Killian painting a picture for the NHS, but this one got way more likes, so obviously people like this painting, which was really nice. So you can see, and I decided that those brush marks, they're too fiddly, and I knew they gotta go. I needed to paint them out with something way bigger and in keeping with the rest of the painting. So this little bit really set me a problem, I guess, which I had to overcome, and it took, you know, quite a long time. That I've spent way longer on this small portion of the painting than the rest, but this, I suppose, this is where the detail's at. So, you know, the focal point. There we go. Now it's looking as though it belongs. Notice I keep zooming out. By zooming out, I get a better idea of what the whole thing looks like. That's it. I needed to just break up that last sort of halo that was around his head, and that does it. Now I just need to tidy up his neck a bit, perhaps. I'm guessing that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, there we go. That's it. That's looking cool. So, and then I want to put, there's a second goose in there, which I'm going to put in. Just finishing this one off first, though. Just, here we go. Still putting in little marks for ripples in the water. And there's the second goose, duck, whatever it is. And this one's going to be way easier because, you know, he's got his head underwater. I haven't got any of that detail to worry about. Just got to get his back end in. Once I've got that right, the rest is just going to fall into place, I reckon. So this one is considerably looser, I think, than the first goose. But hey, clearly a goose, don't you think? Doing the videos like this where I watch them back after I've painted them and put the voiceover, it really is enlightening, because I'm sort of watching things and I'm thinking, put that brush stroke there, do that there, and then I don't do it. I do something different, and it's amazing how my thought process now is different to what it was when I was actually painting the original picture. So things that I'm thinking now is that the water, the left hand side of the water, looks a bit barren and needs something putting in. I need a few little bits of colour in there, not a lot, just a few. There we go. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to whiz it forward until I get to the point where I create a multiply layer, and then I'll come back in again. I'm not going to put any music over this bit though, because it was only a few minutes till I got to the new layer. So that's it, that's speeded up, and here we go. I create a new layer, and once I've created the layer, I'm going to change the blend mode of that layer to multiply. Here we go. So it's set to normal at the minute, and then I check multiply. Once I've got multiply selected, as you know, I can start painting in shadows. It will not be opaque. It won't cover all of those nice colours that are underneath. It will just enhance them with this lovely shadow colour. And I do this in most of my paintings now, because it just adds a third dimension to the painting. Just look how it's making that look as though those trees are now in shadow. It just makes the whole thing pop, and I love doing this. It brings the whole thing to life. I'm using the same brush. I've not changed anything. I will fiddle around with the colours quite dramatically, adjusting the tonal value. So I don't want to be changing the opacity of the layer. I want to get the right tone with the paint, and I just do that by selecting a lighter value. And if I want a really dark shadow, I go in with a dark shadow. I can choose warm colours like these purples. I can go cooler with blues if I want to, and just vary it over the whole of the painting to get exactly the right effect that I want. And just by doing that, it adds so much to the painting, and it takes minutes, just literally minutes. I can create an all new line of bushes behind those trees with a shadow look. Just popping them in now. Break up that green even more. And I can push the colours around. So I'm just not even using it just to paint shadows. I'm also using it to create new shapes and put in new leaves. And you're going to see that I darken up those trees considerably, look. Which is nice, because I've got this lighter bit higher up where the sort of light's getting through the canopy a bit, and it doesn't sort of take that dark tree line right through the top of the painting and cut the picture in half. It stops. There I'm inventing some new bushes. doing this painting has really, and at this size as well, has really opened up my eyes to the potential of Artrage on the iPad again. That you can get some really cool effects. You've just not got to try and push the app too far. There we go. Light colour just for that ripple in the water. And I think that's going to be pretty much it. Oh, no, a few more dark shadows going in. Notice I've gone in with a lighter colour now. Now that's got to be it. I can't be putting much more in. I am. I must have really been enjoying this. Don't know when to stop. Stop, Steve. I'm looking at the video line and there's quite a bit. There's a good 30 seconds, another minute to go yet before I finish painting. I've got to sign it. Oh, here we go. Let's get it signed. Whew, thank goodness for that. I thought I was going to be fiddling for ages longer. There we go. Finished piece. I wonder, doesn't mean I've signed it. I've finished it though. I think I probably have in this case. There we go. That is it. My painting of geese in Artrage 6. I really enjoyed painting this one. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. If you have, a big thumbs up is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing because I have loads of videos like this. Don't forget, everybody, stay safe, stay sane, and most of all, keep painting. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.